I'd like to welcome our speaker today for this workshop, Latanya Motley, and I'll turn it over to her. And if you have questions, put them in the chat. I'll be moderating the chat for her.
Thank
Thank you.
you so much for that. I am just getting started. So what I'm doing now is sharing my screen so we can have something to look at as I go through and talk about this. So my part of the session here at the OE Arizona conference is talking about using, let me move this out of the way. Okay, using AI and OER to enhance an online course. And the purpose of this is to highlight the benefits and cautions with using open educational resources and generative AI to design new courses, or you can revise your instructional content. And it's based on online courses, but what I'm talking about, the strategies could be used for a traditional face-to-face course as well. And the tools and repositories that I discuss are ones that I've used to create and share my knowledge in my online courses. But things have changed. There's new tools coming out. You may have your own tools. So don't take everything I say as the only tools. What I'm sharing is my experience and how OERs and AIs have made it easier for me to update my course and make it more inclusive and relevant for my students. And I really love AI. So that's why I'm here today to share my experiences. If you like, please introduce yourself in the chat. Everyone to be able to know who's in the room. I did a poll beforehand. If you had a chance to fill that out, oh wow, it has increased a lot more. So I'm gonna look at it. I don't I don't know that you can see the poll. I could. I'm just gonna let's see. How can I do this? I'll just read them off to you, so if you're curious to know about that. So what we have, the results of it, it looks like most people it was a split between has some knowledge of OERs and then have adopted or adapted OERs, like 32% and 39%. And then there's some 11% had created, have shared OERs. So when I looked, no one that had shared OER. So I was like surprised about that because that is where we should try to share our content that we create on our own as well. So I was going to talk about that, but it looks like we have some people that have shared as well. And then there are a few people that are new to OERs, which is probably why you're here at this conference, is to learn more about OERs. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. You have my bio and profile there, but I want you to know why I'm here and talking about this is because of my background. I'm an education specialist, certified education specialist in learning, design, and technology. I also have a master's degree in instructional design, and I'm currently a doctoral candidate in educational technology. I'm finishing up my dissertation now. I would like to get this done before the summer. And I'm also a faculty member. I've been teaching online hybrid courses. And I also work full time as an instructional designer and technologist. And I'm one of the key project managers at Northland Pioneer College for the Open Textbooks for Rural Arizona Grant Project, which has been opened my eyes to OERs. I knew about OERs beforehand as an instructional designer, but because I was part of this grant project and promoting and bringing awareness of OERs and attending conferences and just meeting with the consortium, the other schools that are part of the consortium, I am an OER advocate now. I really don't know how I can do my job without OERs now because of the ability it gives me. And I'll talk more about that in my presentation. And the reason I'm talking fast, it's my normal rate, but also I only have an hour and I have a lot I want to cover with you today. So this image, I wanted to start off with an image. This is actually an AI generated image. I asked it to create an image of a book, of a library. I did say, I believe I said college library because I wanted to give you the vision of what the old days were like. If some of you are older, I'm a lot older probably than what you think. The older days, we would go on campus and go into a bookstore. And sometimes we would put our materials, instructional materials, on reserve for students to go and check out, or they would have to go to a bookstore, a campus bookstore, and purchase books. But now everything is moved digitally and it has moved online. And so the bookstore and the library has changed. We actually have our online bookstore. We don't have a campus bookstore at my college. We have an online bookstore where students will go. And in there now, the courses are being built with open educational resources, which saves students a lot more money than having to go and purchase books. So the times are changing, and we are having to change with those times. You probably already heard a lot about OER, so I won't go too far into what is an OER, but I wanted to give you some of the information so you can take this and read it on your own. Definition or purpose of an OER is to support the teaching, learning, and resource. That's why it's called an open educational resource. There are open resources, excuse me, that can be used for other purposes, business purposes, or other business professional purposes. In terms of open educational resources, those are resources that are primarily used for teaching, learning, and resource. And they can be a variety of things. Only the definition only includes textbooks, videos, and simulations. It can be other resources, ancillary material as well. And you need to have a Creative Commons license on that OER. That's what makes it an OER, an open educational resource, is because of the license. And that's something I didn't understand a lot about when I was hearing the term OER when I was going through. It wasn't part, actually, when I went through my instructional design program, I didn't learn a lot about OERs during that part. We learned about using resources, but we had to get permissions because of the copyright laws. But as I learned more about OERs, I realize now because of the Creative Commons license, I can do a lot more than what I assumed I could do because of that license gives me the ability to use it and be flexible at how I use that. So it's a lot of flexibility, a lot um, of design ideas that you can get as long as you follow those Creative Commons licensing. And I don't cover that here in this session, but I do recommend if there are any sessions on Creative Commons licensing or recommendations for those, that you check that out because you do need to know the licensing as you start to go look for OERs. And then another benefit of OERs is that, as it was mentioned in our keynote address, is that it promotes educational equity. And students nowadays, if you don't have the money to purchase a textbook. So I was one of those students. I was a graduate student. Some of the textbooks were in the $100, and I could not afford those. What do? You can't, starve. You need to eat. You need to work. But to pay $100 for a textbook that you may not use is a lot for some students. Some students have that money, or they have grants, they have loans. So it helps by having an OER that's available to everyone at the beginning of the course. It really does help and make a difference. And the numbers that were mentioned earlier were really impressive. And I like that idea of trying to show the benefits of using an OER. That's something we're working on at our college, at my college. And then there are some platforms you can go to, which I'm going to talk a little bit about the repository. So I'll get to that part in just a moment about where you can go to find those open educational resources. And then because I'm also talking about generative AI, I wanted to talk a little bit about it. I'm not an expert. That's not my background. My background is instructional technology, but there is generative AI can be used in any discipline. So I wanted to bring a little bit of background of what generative AI is, but again, I'm not an expert, and I do have some training material that I recommend or training sites to go to learn more. But just a brief overview of generative AI intelligence that creates content, new content. It could be a text, images, audio, and video, and it's based on training data patterns. So when you hear about large language models, those are the data sets where the generative AI systems are pulling the information. Um, I a little bit. I'm going to explain the process I use to redesign my course. You can also use it for personalized learning, helping with grading, also with developing interactive modules and generating tailored practice. There's so much more. That's just a general idea of how you can use it in education. Again, our keynote mentioned a few when he was talking about AI, and you're going to hear a lot more, I'm sure, on how it can be used. But these terms you may hear frequently, so just to point a few of them out. Machine learning techniques is just the algorithms and how they are trying to have a conversation with you in the prompts. And then there are some ethical considerations that you need to keep in mind. And then there was one more bullet point I want to bring out of that is, nope, that's it. Okay. The ethical considerations. Again, this is not a full workshop on AI, so I don't want to go too far in there. But as I talk about how I used it, I also want you to be aware of the concerns about AI. Some of the concerns are the biases in AI. And AI may have some biases, and it's up to how the data was trained. So that's something that you need to be aware of is that there are some biases in AI. You can mitigate those biases by using data sets that have been trained with a diverse representation. There is possibilities to have data sets just for your area. For example, your college could have a data set and train a artificial intelligence system to only pull from those data sets. But that's high level, again, outside my area. But there are ways to mitigate the biases. But you should be aware there are some biases in the training data. Also, privacy is a concern. When you put information into a generative AI system, it could be training on what you're putting into the system. And it does rely on personal information or your questions or information that you're uploading. So it's highly recommended that you do not put any personal data or any student information into a generative AI system. I do not do that. I actually do not put any personal information. I will ask it questions on my own personal, say I'm doing travel, and I'll tell it I'm traveling here. I like to know some ideas on what to do, places to stay. So that type of information, but I would never upload, say, something, a student grade book or even student data. So be careful. Just on make sure you safeguard privacy when you're working with the AI systems. There's ways to go around that, such as was mentioned about having a college supported system where it's tied to the college and there are some limits to who can access that system. But if you're just using, say, ChatGPT without an account, the information you put in there could be training some data, training some systems behind there. So if you're uploading private information, it could be taking that and using it and sharing it with other individuals. So be careful about your private information and student information. And then accessibility may be an issue if you're using a system that is not um, built for individuals with disabilities, then that may cause some problems as well. So those are just some of the concerns about using AI and ethical considerations with using AI. So now I'm going to get into part I really wanted to share with you today. Oh, I've only had 2 minutes. Feels like we've been here a long time, but it's really is going by pretty quick. So I'll spend a few minutes now explaining how I redesign my educational technology course. And let me explain the reason I needed to redesign it is because it happened last year in 2024, no 2023. My course I had been teaching it for several years, educational technology, and the course was the learning objectives were rewritten to change to fit. It's a long story. They were rewritten, and I needed to go and redesign the course to fit the new learning outcome. In addition, the course was moved from a 16-week course to an 8-week course. So that was also a challenge because I needed to make the course fit. I still needed to teach all of the learning objectives, but I needed to redesign it so it could fit, which it gave me an opportunity because at that time, generative AI was just coming on board and hearing more about that. And I had already adopted open educational textbooks, some open textbooks for my course beforehand. I had started building it with open textbooks. So I thought, well, let's see how AI could help me with that. So what I'm going to explain is the process that I used. And then I would like you to kind of mix and match the process because this is my process, but it is a good process as you go through, but some things may change depending on what you need to do. So the first thing I did, and I recommend you do, even if you're not rebuilding your course, but go find your course record form. It may have a different name at your institution, but every course normally has an official course record form. And that contains the course description, it contains the assessments and the approved learning outcomes for that course. It's important you have it because maybe you've been teaching for 10 years and you're not in the loop for some reason, and your course learning objectives have changed and no one told you. So, and so you're teaching a course that is not actually meeting the institutional requirements of that course, learning objectives. So there should be that connection. So go locate your course record form. It should be up to date and accurately reflect the course intended goals. Um, and that can be something where you reach out to your dean, your department chair, or maybe even in a curriculum coordinator. We have a curriculum coordinator at our college that actually does an amazing job with keeping up to date with all of the curriculum. Reach out to them and they can help you with finding your course record form. And it's something you need anyway, regardless of what you're doing. You just need to make sure you're following that official record. Once you have that, though, you will have the learning objectives and the assessments that have been approved for that course. So I started there. I wanted to make sure I had the right course learning objectives, learning outcomes, assessments, description. That even changed. So I needed that. After I had that information, then I was able to go out and start looking for OERs, open educational resources. As I said, I had already adopted a textbook, and I'll show you the references that I use, my favorite OER repositories. You should have one that's discipline specific. You can go out and just search up Commons, OER Commons, which is nice. I found some material, but if it's discipline specific, it helps you with limiting what you are searching. It takes time. That is one of the longest process was identifying the potential OERs because you're going to find books, material that you don't need at all. You may just need part of that content, but you need to look it over and identify what it is that you need to use in your course. The information on the OER will be a Creative Commons license and it will help you understand what you can do with that material. For example, a CC BY license, which is what I tend to always look for now, it gives you ability to adapt it and allow you to do what you need to do. You can even just adopt it as is, but with CC BY, you can adapt it and change the content in a way that fits for your course. But you do need to put that attribution on there. And I do show you an example of how to put the attribution. So after I have the course form with the learning objectives, then I start to look for OERs. Again, this takes time. Don't rush it, but you should plan for it. For me, what I did, I planned out a few hours whenever I had it to go through. You can't do it in like a 5 minutes. It's when you're looking for OERs. You actually have to spend time because for me, I downloaded books, open educational textbooks, open textbooks, and then I looked through them, found the ones that I wanted to use. AI could help you with that, but I won't go into that right now because I recommend you spend the time as the instructor of the course or the designer of the course looking over all the OERs before you decide what you want to use. Once you decide what you want to use, I download it, I save it. I think that's the next step, and I adapt it to fit my course and the course objectives. Um, this again is a tricky part. Working with an instructional designer can help you with this, but if you understand your materials, you know the learning objectives, how students can reach those learning objectives, the materials that the students need in order to help them reach the learning objectives. That's our job as instructors of the course is to help them reach the learning objectives. So finding material that can help them do that is up to you. And I don't think anyone can really pick that out for you. Instructional designer can help, a librarian can help find materials, but you have to make that final decision. And that helps. To me, that's the fun part is aligning the material with my course and saying, hey, this is a great chapter. Love this chapter. I will put this chapter in module 3. Love this chart. This chart it will fit in module 2. So you start piecemealing in and adapting it. Or you find another chapter that fits, but you don't want this part in it. So you take it out. You can mix and match different OERs, but that takes some skill. And I personally didn't mix and match too much because you have to be able to cite and still leave that Creative Commons license. It can be done. You can mix and match several, but it takes a skill because you want to make sure the reader knows where you got that information from. Um, okay, so I'll keep going. As you are starting to build your course or build the material, you're not building the course yet. I still use the ADDIE model for instructional design, which is what I was taught. So you're still in the development phase before you're moving into the design phase. You're developing now. You're starting to get the materials. Track the materials, the OERs that you're using. This is a recommendation. I didn't learn it. I learned the hard way because the first semester I was putting things in courses. I was getting the right Creative Commons license, so it was cited right. But towards the end of the course, I got to where I was like, did I put that in module 3 or did I put it in module 2? I know I used that, but where did I put that? So by tracking it, it's quicker. And I still need to go back. I haven't really done a good job of that. I still need to go back. I have a form that I'm going to use. I do have a course map though. I do have a map and I have started tracking it, but it's not fully tracked because I ended up adding some new material or changing some material around. So it's an ongoing process of keeping up to date and making sure that you know where the OERs are in your course. Now, if you're only using one handout, that's not a big deal. But if you're building an entire course that has several open educational resources, I think I ended up using three textbooks, and maybe like another magazine or something that was not a magazine, but another handout that was open educational resource. It won't, it, Mine was complicated because I was using different materials. If you're just using one or two, you may not need to track it as much. Um, but a course map does help, not just for OER purposes, but for your course. I use Excel for that, and it's something I've been using for at least 10 years. I've been using a course map. As an instructional designer, I was trained that way, but and then as a faculty member, it's just something I just keep doing. A course map can be, you track it, which modules have which activity, which assignments. And I have examples. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I can give you an example of a course map. But I added an OER component to that course map. So now I have a way to say, okay, I got this chapter from this book, and I put it in this place. So track your OERs. Step 5, add a Creative Commons license. Once you have the material in a that you would like to use and it's already been developed, you've already adapted it, make sure you add that Creative Commons license. This is actually a license that I took a screenshot from my course. And it's a license from one of the chapters, and I can show you the chapter in just a moment. It is a CC BY license. There are various licenses. I'm not an expert on licenses. I just know which one I want to use, which is CC BY, because I can do pretty much what I want with that. I can't sell it, but I can do pretty much what I want. And so what I put here though is something that's recommended that you actually put if it was adapted. If you're just using it as is, you could just put the license that was on the original. But if you adapted it, the recommendation is that you let the reader know that you adapted it. And that's perfectly fine. That's why it is an open educational resources, because you can adapt it. And for me, some of the adaptations that I do is I may change it to a chart. It may be information that was listed as bullets. I may change it to a chart. And maybe I may take out some of the information originally it doesn't fit for my module. So if you adapt it, meaning if you change the original, you should put a note on there. And it's also the way that you cite a OER is you can recommend TASL as an acronym, which is the title, the author, the source, and the license. So here, the title, the author, Ed Technica, and the license, CC BY, and then the source. I also put the link is recommended that link to the original, which I do. So that's how you add a license. Now, where you put that license, I've seen it different places. I've seen it where it's one page. It has it at the top of the page, and it's at the entire course. I personally put them at the bottom of the module. So every module has several sections. Just like I use Articulate, I'm using Articulate for my presentation. I have it at the bottom, so when the students get to the bottom, or if I mixed up several OERs, I will put it at the end of that section. I don't mix and match, meaning I don't put a little bit here and a little bit there. I will mix it up to where it's just this section is from this area, this section is this from this area. And it kind of just worked for me. And then if it's just one long chapter that I've taken, I put it at the bottom. And I also show you, I also put it on the home page. I tell them where what the module contains, where the content came from. So the most important part is that you do need to put a Creative Commons license on the OERs that you use. Even if it's just a little bit of the OER, it still needs to have a license on there. And then after that, you start developing the material. So I use the original program that the material came with. So say if I downloaded it, I found an open textbook at EdTech Books, which is what I do. EdTech Books, go there. I found a textbook. I download the entire textbook. So I have that textbook. Even you can download pages. So I don't, if you don't need the whole textbook, don't download it because then you'll have a lot of textbooks that you have to go through. Just download what you need. For me, I was looking at entire textbooks because my course does not have a textbook, and that is on purpose. We don't want students to have to buy. There are ed tech books, but we don't want them to have to buy. We're trying to reduce costs. So I download the entire textbook, and then I went through and I found the chapters that I wanted. Um, and then I edit it. When you're editing it, it's up to you. I edit in Word. I just found it was easier just to edit because I was comfortable. You can edit in Adobe Acrobat Professional if you have it and it's a PDF because most of the OER's content is in PDF format, but that is not a friendly format to edit. So if you're just using it as is, you can just save it as a PDF, upload it to your learning management system, share it from there. If you're adapting it, that's where you need to have some type of program to edit. And it's up to you. I use Word because it was just easier to use Word. Comfortable with that. But say you're using EPUB or another program, you can use what you're comfortable. There are tools online for editing OERs in the OER Commons. There's a tool there. Trying to think of other tools for editing OERs. Oh, learning management systems also have tools. I personally like to use Word. I just download it, PDF format, I convert it to Word, and then I go and I start adding in content. Now, incorporating multimedia elements, that's when I put it inside of, we use Moodle, the learning management system. So I edit it, take out what I don't want, add in what I want, add maybe change the images, maybe add in, trying to think of what else I would add in if I was editing it. Mostly it's just taking out text that I don't want. Uh, oh, checking links. Also check the links because that content that you may have found may be a few years old, which is fine if it's current for you. But sometimes the links do break. And I've learned that YouTube links, if they are embedded within that OER, needs to be checked as well at this point. So you're building it, you're developing it, and now it's ready to go. Then you will upload it. Before you upload it, though, this is where the step now brings in generative AI. Is because before you would just take that content and you could upload it, but now you have another tool in your tool belt where generative AI can enhance that content and make it even better. I start with the content because I don't want AI to create the content for me. Although in the future, that may be where we're going. We just say, go create a course based on this outline, based on these learning objectives, and it will do it. It can do that now, but I'm not comfortable with that. And I don't know that I want to have just a full course created because then I'll have to go back and I'll have to edit. And I'm comfortable with designing a course. So I did not start with using generative AI to create the materials for me. That's my process. And I recommend it if you're comfortable with developing your own content. But you can start with generative AI after you have the OER and just go right to it. But I create the OER first the way that I want, build it the way that I want, and then I started using generative AI tools. And for me, what I did is I uploaded a portion or all of the module. And I'm comfortable with that again because it's content that's open already. So I'm not sharing anything that's private. It's not any student information there, and it's not any information that can harm anyone either. And so it's information, and it's behind a system. I did not use any of the free. I pay for it. I know that was mentioned earlier. I pay for access to some of these tools that I mentioned, generative AI tools, because I'm comfortable with the security, and it keeps track of what I've done. If you use the free version, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Also, it doesn't keep track. So I can always go back to something that I've done, say 6 months ago, and I see it because I'm paying for the $20, the generative, the Chat GPT system. Um, it's up to you if you want to pay for a free service, but it does help. So if you upload the module as a starting point, you've already developed that is your module. You're not asking it. You're comfortable with that. And you can ask it to do things like create an assessment for this module, which I've done that before. I give my students a pre knowledge check is what I call it. So I for every module there are like 5 questions at the end before they take the quiz. And I'll tell you now. Hopefully no students here, but I'll tell you this now is that those questions are also included in the quiz. So it kind of gets them to practice um, what they don't know. They can always go back. I used generative AI to help me with that. And it was so much easier than me trying to come up with the questions, the knowledge check questions. I do go in and edit them though. So the material you get from generative AI in most cases will be 75% of what you want, depending on the tool you use. Sometimes it can be of what you're looking for, but you still need to read it. You still need to check it and make sure there are no errors. Because this is material that you're going to take and upload to your course. And that's where the students are going to have it. So you need to really check the results. You also have to save it. I learned that the hard way as well, is that if you close the window, sometimes the material will go away. I don't know if it was earlier on when I was not, it could have been the system I was using, or I don't know what was going on, but I wasn't saving the notes. It could be it erases it after a few months too. So after you go through and start using generative AI, whatever it creates for you, just a note there to save it. And to do that, you will copy and paste it somewhere. I've started creating a folder for every semester and saving results there. So now we're moving
And we
on.
did have two questions.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
please go
So
ahead.
the first question was, do you have a list of the resources for each step that you've been discussing? Yeah.
That's a great way to put. I have not added it here. I am going to give you the resources. So yes and no. I don't have them on this area of the presentation, but I do. The next few slides will talk about the resources that I use. Yes.
And then the other question was, how can librarians help with this process?
Great question. It's up to the librarian, but most likely the librarian will help when you're looking for materials. So I would say even the Creative Commons licensing, I believe a lot of librarians, and I'm just speaking off the cuff of what I know about librarians, a lot of librarians understand Creative Commons licensing. So they may, our librarian is excellent with OERs. They may understand where to go to find them and how to put the licensing on there. So at the point that you look for yes, the step two, when you start identifying OER materials would be the best step for the librarian. And feel free, do we have any librarians here that would like to step up and say how you can help? You can also put it in the chat. Were there any other questions?
That's it so far. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Feel free to interrupt me anytime. Okay, so this is really important as well. When you're working with AI, you don't just take the results that it gives you the first time. You want to iterate, ideate, uh, take the feedback, and ask it questions. It wants you to talk to it, believe it or not. You may not be comfortable at first. You may think, okay, I'll put my question in, and prompting is not part of this presentation, but there are some skills with prompting on how you talk to the system. Get comfortable with that, but you'll realize it's your friend. I think of it as my design assistant, and that's something where you have to have that conversation and that back and forth. And if you have an account, you can go back to see the conversation that you have with that system to see how that went. So it's not a one and done where you just put in your question, you get the results, and the results are returned to you. You really should talk to it and think about it and kind of get more, because it will clarify, it will clean things up. There's so many times it gave me the results and I'm like, no, can you change it this way? In less than a minute it changed it. So they're not like humans yet. They're not humans. They don't get upset that you're telling it to redo what you told it to do. It's less than a minute. So even if you think, oh, they have to redo the whole thing, don't worry, because it takes them less. The system, your tool, your AI agent, it takes them to do what you need them to do. So don't worry about having to tell it to redo what you want it to do. And there's so much more it can do than probably what you even know about. All right, now you've done all that. You've built some new assessments with generative AI, has maybe given you some rubrics, it given you some case studies. Now you're ready to build it and develop it in your LMS. So that's where you have, if you have a LMS, you can upload it into the course. We use Moodle. So what I did is I uploaded it into Moodle. Now I actually use Articulate for some of the content because I like the way that I'm comfortable with Articulate and I like the way that it flows. And also I can add in some activities and things using Articulate. But if you have like Canva or D2L or some other system, Blackboard, Anthology, you can upload that OER content if it's in a format that you're comfortable with. You just upload it. As long as you put it into or put the Creative Commons licensing on it, you're good to go. So what I did is I uploaded it. Well, I used Articulate for my modules, but for the other content, I uploaded it and I have the licensing on there. And if you, again, here, if you adapted it from the original, you need to put information on there to let the reader know that you adapted it. You should also include a link to the original. Okay, I'm going to continue on so we can get to the resources. Check for quality and accessibility. Once it's uploaded, you can do that beforehand, but I recommend checking it once it's uploaded. And that's something an instructional designer can help you with, or if you have an LMS, they may have some tools in there. We use Ally for our accessibility tools, so I ran an accessibility report, and I'm an accessibility specialist for my background. That's one of the positions that I've held before. So I thought, oh, it's good to go. I should be good because I know I need to add this, and this. But no, there were still some errors that I had not caught after I had uploaded. So be sure to do that as one of the final steps. And that's part of the development process is checking also for quality and then checking the links because sometimes you created it offline, your OER had links in it, but when you uploaded, those links broke. So you make sure the links are working. And that will help you with making sure there are no problems before the students get in there. I can tell you though, there's always going to be problems. One of the problems I had is I created a true false quiz using AI, uploaded it to my course, didn't do this step right here, thinking, oh, it's just a quiz. I had already done these type of situations before, so I was comfortable that normally the quiz is in Aikens format. I asked generative AI to create it in Aikens format, which is amazing. Before you would have to do it your own, but I asked it to create a quiz, a true false quiz, and then format it in Aiken format, which is the format you need to upload a quiz into Moodle. So I didn't have to do it. I took that, uploaded it as the quiz. It was one of the weekly module quizzes. Didn't check it beforehand. Didn't realize until the first student took it that the way that it was set up, the AI did it, the quiz questions weren't properly identified. It was just open. There were no correct answers. So everything was wrong. And that was my fault because I didn't do this stuff. So I'm pointing this out as a teachable moment is that you should always check quality of anything that you upload, and especially if it's created by generative AI. And then the last step is to review and approve the OEL content. And that's just making sure that everything that you've done has been reviewed and checked for consistency and that you have the Creative Commons license on there and that the content actually meets the learning objectives and the goals of the course. So those are the steps that I to get the course updated. Questions? Were there any other questions?
There
Okay,
was
I'm going to go
just some
ahead.
I have no sound.
general
Go
feedback.
ahead.
Says,
Please, yes.
says my speaker isn't working.
Did you want to, oh, you said there was some feedback in the chat. I guess I can go there now. I'm done with that part of it. Let's
Well, there
see.
was discussion for libraries, and then there was just a question that popped up. Do you ever find yourself in a bit of a fire drill situation with accessibility checks? Sometimes we get to the end of a course department and realize, sorry, I
That's
lost.
okay.
I'm happy to read. That was my question.
Go ahead and
So,
read it if you like.
thanks. So sometimes the librarians will provide resource recommendations for courses, or even sometimes faculty will go out and find their own resources. If maybe they're like, oh, it's not a library resource, I can bring it in myself. But then we get put in a little bit of a fire drill situation because we have like a pretty strict course development schedule. And let's say a faculty found all these great resources from this website. None of them are in any shape or manner accessible. And so librarians get tasked with tracking down something accessible. Um, so I was just wondering if you had any tips sort of for avoiding that. You get to the end of your building your course and then something you're using isn't accessible, and remediating something, if you even have the permission to do it, can be pretty time consuming, especially to someone who's not an expert like yourself in accessibility. So I just wondered if you had any tips or insights to share on that.
Thank you for that question. And I can tell you that's a struggle. That's a struggle at every institution that I've ever worked at, and other accessibility specialists that I know about, because you cannot control what the instructor puts into their course. That's something where we have a training course I just developed at the college to try to bring awareness to how to develop at the beginning. So the recommendation is that they should be aware of accessibility standards and guidelines at the beginning. So when they're selecting materials, they know what to look for, that the video has captions, that the content, that they run it through accessibility checker. Um, so I really don't have a concrete answer. We're struggling with that as well, trying to get our faculty to know. We're doing a better job of it, though. We have Ally, as I said before, which is a faculty member can go into a course and run a report, and it will quickly identify any accessibility errors for that content, which is amazing to me. Before, you would have to go in and click on every document, but with this tool, which I recommended and brought to the campus, it's because I saw the benefits. It has helped us increase our accessibility. I don't, again, I don't know how to solve a problem where the instructor still has the agency to go and select materials, which they should. But as long as they understand the accessibility guidelines, then hopefully they would identify materials that have already been vetted. But I just gave you that example. I still make mistakes. I think it's time as well. We're so busy trying to get things done that last step, sometimes we think we're going to go back to it, and we don't always go back to check accessibility. The most beneficial part would be to have someone on campus dedicated to that, to keep up with that, to help with that, which most faculty or most campuses don't have those type of resources to dedicate someone just to go in and help faculty with making sure their courses are accessible, fully accessible. Great question, though. Feel free if anyone else has any questions. And then I wanted to point out real quick, because we're running out of time here, I opened up my module. This is one of the modules. Now, this is in PDF format, so it's not as interactive and engaging, but I wanted to point out how I used AI to help me with this. And this is actually a module about designing interactive and collaborative learning environments. And we talk about AI. I'm not going to go that far down. I just wanted to point out how I used AI. So in my modules, the opening has a summary. How I used AI with the summary is that I create the module, as I told you before. I design the modules, create them, and at the end, I say, here's a module, create a one paragraph summary for me. I could do it, no problem, but AI does it for me, and it does a great job for the most part. It may add in more than I want, so I go in, I take it out, and it does that for me. Learning objectives, the learning objectives are built by the course record form, but you can add in additional learning objectives check with your course and your dean and director, but in some cases, as the professional and the teacher instructor, you can add in additional module-based learning objectives, which is what you see here. So for my module-based learning objectives, again, I could write these myself. I'm an instructional designer, but I uploaded my module and I said, create 4 or 5 objectives based on higher order. These are not higher order because they need foundation skills. But some of the later modules, I asked it to create higher orders. For here, I just said, based on these, create, and I do give it more prompts because sometimes I wanted to align it with the course learning objectives. But anyway, I just want you to point out, it can help you with designing the module-based objectives as well. A few other places that I used OERs, I put a note on the first page to let the students know which open educational resources and which chapters, because at the beginning of the course, I link to all of the open educational resources that I use. I use open textbooks, so I link to the open textbooks. That is a benefit of them. If they want to read the whole textbook, they can. That's on them. But I let them know for this module where the content came from. So I give them the chapters that it comes from. I wanted to point out a few more things. The graphics that you add in your courses, you could use AI to help you with that, but the AI created graphics are not that great. If you're using a program that has the AI capabilities like Articulate, you have a repository where you can pull from, which is some of the benefits. And then the materials that you find also will have some images. But what I found, what I noticed is that some of the images I didn't like because I teach in the teacher preparation program, so I'm teaching teachers how to use educational technology. So I wanted to bring some of the pre-K through 12th grade images. So I switched out some of the images, which I can do because it's an open educational resource. Here is one of the licenses. This is one of the examples of how I mix match content. So one chapter was at the top. This covers that chapter. And then I continue on. This is taken from different chapters, different books. I can't write this much. I mean, this is a lot for me to write a book, 4 different books that I'm pulling from. So open educational resources, I just can't say enough about the benefits and the power that it brings to a classroom to make the learning so rich and engaging, but we are still needed as the instructors because we have to pull and mix and match and make it fit. It's constructing a learning environment that's personal, that's more exciting, that's engaging, but you have to build that time into it, and that's where you have to plan it on your own. And how you do that, I can't really give you any recommendations. It's just other than you need to plan for 4 or 5 hours at a time when you're building these modules. I'm going to move on. I think that was it for this module. Show you something else. Taking content and bringing it in. This is actually a tabs inside of Articulate. It doesn't show here as a PDF, but I made it to where it's tabs. So you can take the content and rearrange it, make it more content where it fits your material, and not before it was like this where I made it tabs so where they can pick and choose what they needed to choose. So that's one example of a module. Now I'm going to go back to the presentation and give you the repository. Question came up earlier about some of the tools and resources that I've used. These are my favorite repositories. Now, a repository is a place where others have uploaded and shared OERs, open educational resources. The ones that I've used, of course, the OER Commons, which we're all familiar with, one of my favorite places to go to search. The OE Arizona has our own page as part of the grant project. We've been creating resources as a consortium and sharing them amongst ourselves, but I believe that's open. You can also just go to the OER Commons and search there. I found several assignments that I used, or maybe 1 or 2 assignments from there that I've used. EdTech Books is where I've gotten a majority of my content for my course, is because it's based on educational technology, and it's great. I did not know that was there until I started looking for OERs. And I'm like, wow, there's a whole website that's devoted to educational technology and a lot of amazing books. But one caveat about even Merlot, a caveat is that a lot of the material is out of date. Because what happens, they'll upload an OER, say from 5 or 6 years ago, and no one takes it down. that is, I don't know if that's a problem, but that is something you're going to run up against, especially at Merlot. Merlot is another one that I've used for years, but the material, you have to drill down and find current material. For me, since I teach educational technology, my content changes often. So I have to find current content. But say other disciplines, you may not. If you have any repositories that you want to share, post that in the chat so others can see that. I know there's OpenStax. I don't use that, but I know faculty that I work with use that because I also support the faculty with using technology. And OpenStax is a great one to go to. So if you have any, please share those in the chat. And then I'm going to share my generative AI tools that I use. Perplexity. That's at the top, and I did that intentionally because I really love Perplexity for educational purposes. Because of the answers, and it also gives you references. I've used ChatGPT and tried to ask it questions about, say, creating some materials or just something, and I didn't like the responses. And you'll learn that as well. You'll have your own tools that you prefer. Keep a note of those, keep a reference, because you may want to go back to those, or you want to talk to it about a colleague, you want to share it with them, but you need to know which ones you use. There are a gazillion generative AI tools, and every day there's a new one. I don't even have all the ones on here. These are just the ones that I used when I was redesigning my course. Perplexity for just creating content, asking it questions, drilling down. Pop AI I used for I believe it was for creating a presentation at one time. I was going to an outline of a presentation. I don't use that anymore, but I was using it when I was redesigning. Quizlet, love Quizlet. If you're familiar with Quizlet, you already know. If you are not familiar with it, I recommend it. It's cheap too. I pay for it myself. I think I pay like $30 for a year. And my students, I embed the flashcards inside of my course. Quizlet has an AI tool now. It's amazing. It really is amazing. It will create questions based on a topic that you give it. You can go in and customize it. It's just really amazing. So I highly recommend Quizlet. Articulate Rise is another one. I'm using it now to showcase my presentation, but I use it to create modules and training materials as well. And we use it at one point. We were using it to deliver our grant projects, and we're still doing that. We create some of the modules and help faculty with that because a part of what we do at the college, we have a grant team, OER grant team, and we work together to help the faculty with developing their OERs and sharing it with the grant. Of course, ChatGPT in video, you may not have heard of it, but I really love it. It's for creating videos. You just give it a topic and it will create a video, a nice video, pretty nice. And it has in video images. You can go in and edit it as well. I do pay for that myself. Again, I pay for ChatGPT, I pay for InVideo, I pay for Perplexity, I pay for Quizlet. So how you get the funds for this is up to you. It may be something where your department or division may be able to cover that, but I personally just pay for it. It makes my life easy. I don't mind paying for it if it gives me what I need to get my job done. And then Slide GPT is another great tool. And then Kahoot is something for games. This has an AI feature where it can create a game based on questions. It can create the questions for you. So those are the ones that I've used in the past. I know we're running out of time. I'm going to go quickly.
It's about eight minutes, Latanya.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
thank you. Just a few more tips for you. Let me close this out. Benefits, why you want to use AI. So you have the OER content. You could just upload that OER content into your course and you're good. The students can go through. You could use the learning management system to create some of this material. Say you wanted to use H5P to create flashcards, you could do that. But the benefit of using a program with AI is that it can customize the material for it. It can do it so quick. By the time you put in the question, you've already got the results. That's something that in the past it would take days to do. Now can be done, create customized content based on your learning objectives. So it's not just content pulling off the web. You're actually telling it based on this learning objective, create this. And I did that. I said, based on this learning objectives or these learning objectives, I would like a case study. And the case study was perfect. And I went, for the most part, I went in, adjusted a few bit, and then I added it to my course as an assignment. I asked it to create a rubric. And it created a rubric for that. So anyway, you can create customized content Personalized feedback, I have not done that. I do not grade with AI. I have heard of other people. I don't know how they do that without uploading student content into the AI system, but that is a recommendation that others have given me, or I've heard, is that you could personalize feedback, but I personally don't use it for grading. Adaptive learning, enhanced research. If you just have an idea, I'm building a new course at the college on digital literacy in higher education. And for that course, I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I also wanted to get some ideas. So I just went into chat. I think I was using Perplexity at that time, and said, "Hey, this is the course I'm thinking about. What do you think would be a great outline?" Pumped it out. I liked some of it, didn't like some of it. Started building, started talking to it. So it helps with ideal generation. Um, and let's see. Oops. And the last thing, I won't go through all because we're pretty much done with the other suggestions that I have or the benefits. I've already talked about a lot of those, and it reduces time, which is what the whole purpose of this is, reducing time. So I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to skip past it. OER training resources. Just look at these, take a picture, whatever you need to do. These are resources that I've used for the most part. I've taken all of these except for I didn't complete the Google training, but I do want to go back to that. The AI Quick Study by ACUE is a great one that I highly recommend. And I can share the presentation. I was going to do that, but they ran out of space. So I can share that. If you want to put your email or even contact me, I can send that to you as well. So I will be sharing that. I just don't have it. I couldn't upload it to Wova. I was planning to do that, but they ran out of space.
So
Um,
I think I sent an email to folks to the
there
presenters.
it is.
I
You
put,
did.
yeah, if you want to upload it to that Google Drive and put it in there, I've added a link in Whova and
Perfect.
I'll try to send it out to everybody so they
Thank
have them
you. No
all in one.
worries. You did send it though. It's just at the last minute, so I
Yeah,
hadn't
yeah.
had time. It's okay though. I will do that. I will upload it so you'll have all these links I'm sharing, which is more links I have. I wanted to take you to see a design chat real quick. I'm going to see if this will work. I won't take you to the video. So this is a chat. I built a design agent inside of ChatGPT where it helps me, and it was something you can do. I was playing around, and after I did it, I was like, wow, this is amazing. So this is a question I had asked it earlier, and I wanted you to see the results. I just asked it, this was the question: please create a course outline on the topic of creating charts in Excel. It just broke it down for me. It broke down the title, gave me a title, duration. I didn't tell it the format, it told me the format. Prerequisites, outcomes, weeks. And then I went back because assessments, it even told me assessments and resources. And then I went back and said, yes, it said, would you like me to change anything? Yes, please change the length to 1 week. I was trying to do a week at a time. This isn't an actual course. I was just using it as an example. So within a minute, it rewrote it for a week. And here's the day, but it made it as though every day was something, and I could go back and change that. So I just want you to be aware that look at all of this done, and it took me less than 5 minutes to get all of this from my AI system. It was in ChatGPT. And then I even took it further. I was like, now please create the activities and a rubric for this, and this is the total points. And this is how I built my course as well. I went in and we start building things and changing it, and I'm talking to it. It's giving me activities. Here's the rubric. If you need to save it, what would happen when I'm ready is there's a save button, maybe not here because this is, I'm not logged in, but you could just copy it, paste it, the rubric's done. Discussion rubric, and then the assignment. So that took me less than 10 minutes to do all of that within the system. I do have some videos of that, but I won't show that. So I know we're running out of time. We have a few minutes. So what other questions and concerns or interests do you have with using OER and AI for course design? And I'll check the chat area as well. Looking over, you're using H5P. I'll bring it over here so I can look here. You're using H5P. If you have not used H5P, I recommend H5P. Does H5P have an AI component embedded in it now? I haven't used it in a while.
They do, yeah. With their institutional license at Pima Community, they have a really cool, robust AI content generator. So pretty cool.
Nice.
Thanks for all your
Yes.
sharing your resources. I'm going to check those out.
Oh, you're welcome. And I even have more I didn't even cover. So I'm going to go wrap it up real quick. And if anyone else has questions, I know we only have a little bit more time, but I do have, and you get this handout when I upload it. I put in more because I'm a technologist. I have lots of resources. So here are some more resources that you could use that I recommend that I actually have heard about. I didn't put everything on here because these are the ones that I know about. They'll be, the link is available. And I wanted to point out this was created by by AI. I actually had the title and the link, and I was just going to give you the title and link. I used AI and Articulate to create it. I just said, here's the text. And I was just playing around. I wasn't expecting it. And then it created this, but it put it in a description for everyone. And it put it in table format, and it added the links like this. So that was amazing. Every time I use AI, I'm really amazed at how much it does and how quick it does it. So wrap it up. This is the future of classroom and learning. Technology will be integrated. It's already integrated. You need that technological knowledge, you need that competency knowledge, and you need that content knowledge, and you also need the skill with using technology, pedagogical knowledge as well. So we as instructors will be using AI regardless. So it's something you should be comfortable with, but you can also be intentional about how you use it. So summarize, by leveraging generative AI and open resources, educators can create a more inclusive, engaging, and personalized learning environment that caters to the unique needs and strengths of their students. And that's it.
Thank you so much, LaTanya and
You're
everybody. Welcome. And yeah, we're done. Have to jump off. Hope to see you in another one. Bye.
Yes. Thank you all.